Good evening and welcome to Dr. Tete. I think this is our very first time meeting here this semester, and so we want to welcome everybody who has tuned in with us for this edition of our radio lecture series on EDF 111 Educational Foundation. Distinguished colleagues from the Department of Educational Foundations, and we are here to present an overview of the course EDF 111 Foundations of Education, as well as the concept of education in should I say Ghana? I think I may not be wrong to add Ghana to the topic. And so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the studio. This evening we are talking about foundations of education in Ghana, and I think this course is meant for all level 100 students reading this course, as well as anyone who takes interest and delight in educational matters as far as this country called Ghana is concerned. And so this evening, this is what we have gathered here to discuss. We will do the discussion for a period, and at the right time we will activate the phone lines 0503 923 0503 923 So if you are a student reading this course, or you are a listener, at the right time we will activate the phone line, so that if you have a question, a comment, or a contribution, you can phone in and we will be right here to respond to whatever you have for us. And so I've already indicated that I'm privileged to have in the studio with me Dr. Alex Tete and Miss Miriam Oga this evening to help me do the discussion on the overview of the course and the concept of education. I would first of all start with Dr. Alex Tete. Doc, EDF 111, I know I went to class and some students have already written EDC 111, the school curriculum and social change. Unfortunately, this semester we are not taking EDC 111, the school curriculum, social change and national development. Rather, we are doing EDF 111, Foundations of Education. What is the course about? Why Foundations of Education in the first place?
Okay, thank you very much, Steve, and good evening to our cherished listeners. When we talk of Foundations of Education, I would say it is one of the new professional teacher education courses that has been introduced in this new curriculum for training teachers in this country, especially at the university level. Foundations of Education is not a new area of study at all. In other universities, it's been there as Foundations of Education. Others call it sociological and philosophical foundation. Others give it long names. In this university, it has been there, just that its content has been diffused under many areas. So by the time you finished going through your education in this university, you might have taken bits and parts of this area of study called Foundations of Education. This time, with the introduction of the new curriculum, it's been put together as an independent teacher professional course that everyone who, like you said earlier, in fact, it doesn't matter whether you're going to be a teacher or not, you need to have it to understand why education is as it is today, where we have been, where we are coming from, and then why we see the way it is. So basically, that is the course Foundations of Education. Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alex Tete. Miss Miriam, what should our students expect? Foundations of Education.
Yes, so thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to welcome all of them, especially the level 100 students. All right, so Foundations of Education is a very interesting course, like you have both said. This is not to say that all these while that we've been producing professional teachers, they are not equipped in this area, like Dr. Tete said. Yes, it has been diffused in several courses that they do take with us, so they have it, except that this time round we are making it stand out to meet the national teacher standards and all that, so it is there.
All right, thank you very much. And so I go back to Dr. Alex Tete. Foundations of Education.
Thank you very much. When we talk of Foundations of Education, in fact, if it is the first time you are hearing the term, you might think that it's about learning the primaries, the basics of education, so that you'll be thinking of A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, and those kind of things. But that is not it. Foundations of Education is a field of study. It's a field of study. And like I said, it's an ancient field of study. People say it doesn't have its own content. Some people say it doesn't have its own content. But then it is an area of study that borrows its content from other disciplines, mainly the humanities and social sciences, to explain educational phenomena. When we say educational phenomena, educational practice, or what happens in education. And so, talking about the course Foundations of Education, it means we are going to study in an area that will help us to understand education's purpose, its development, and the social role, the social impact on it, as well as that of education's impact on the society. And so, to do this, we need other sources of disciplines, other disciplines from which we can use these concepts to explain educational practices. In fact, we say Foundations of Education is very unique because it has a lot of disciplines that it borrows concepts from to explain the educational phenomena. And one thing that makes it unique is that the way it integrates these areas, the way it interprets these areas, and the way it applies the concepts in these areas to explain educational ideas. Yeah. So by the time we are done with this course, we expect that we will also be equipped with the ability to understand from the perspective of philosophy, from the perspective of history, from the perspective of psychology, from the perspective of sociology, why we have the kind of education we have today, especially in this country. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So I go to Miss Miriam. So Miss Miriam, Dr. Tete has spoken a lot about foundations. Like he indicated, when we say foundations, it doesn't necessarily mean we are going to learn the basis of education in this jurisdiction, as you may want to put it. Foundations, what comes to mind? What should our students take note of?
Yeah, so foundations, like you've said, we realize that as our students are in level 100, most of the courses they will be taking are more or less introductory courses. And so, like you said, our students are going to be introduced to the basics of education. And the basics does not necessarily mean, like he said, one's ability to read, write, and those things. Our students have acquired those things already. They are now venturing into a whole, if I should put it, a discipline. Okay, so they need to understand the fundamentals in that discipline. And so these 4 areas that we mentioned, they are more or less the building blocks upon which education rests. And so you realize that foundations or basics are fundamental with human life. When it comes to you give birth to a baby, it's not right from the hospital that you introduce the baby to banku and fufu. Of course, this may be debatable, but research has shown that we should do exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of the baby's life. We are providing the baby with some basics for their developmental growth and their developmental growth. Now, when it comes to building and construction, we often hear foundations in building and construction, and of course, this very structure we find out it has a foundation. The foundation is hidden. Oh, we admire, oh, this architect is so good. Look at how the building is so nice, but we forget that there is something under. So, to a larger extent, the foundation which is hidden, how strong or firm it is, determines how long, to some extent, the building will last. There are instances where you chance on a building and even before the roofing it collapses. Yeah, so in education we need to provide, the learners are expected, so by the end of this course they will be exposed to the nitty-gritties, those fundamental things that are so unique so long as their professional development is concerned, as far as their various educational programs, the various educational programs they are reading are concerned. So foundations of education, they are going to be exposed to these 4 pillars that we've mentioned already. They are modern, but for the level we are dealing with, at least these 4 will be enough for them to find their way through in the educational space.
Good. And so if I understand, it means that the course is basically going to deal with philosophy of education, psychology of education, history of education, and sociology of education. These are the foundations. Now, if you look at the title of the course, Foundations of Education, we've spoken a lot about foundations. Education, what is it? I met people saying, I met some group of students saying that, so are we saying that those, there is a tribe or an ethnic group around Tanzania, they basically hunt. That's what they do. They are still hunter-gatherers. Do we say what is education? For us, to some people, education means being lettered. So if you're able to read, write, then it means you're educated. Is that what education is about? Or there is more to education than just that? Dr. Tete.
This is a very difficult question, an ancient question that we will attempt to answer, even though we cannot provide a perfect one. In fact, it is tedious to define education in a manner that everybody will accept without questioning something in your definition. But one thing that we all agree to is that the term is from a Latin expression, and the experts say that education comes from 2 Latin words, being educere, educere, and another person also says that, well, the word from which education comes from, it's not educere, rather it is educare, educare or educare, whichever way you mention it. Now, that is the source of the word. That is what in English we say the etymology of the word, the source of the word. Good. You could see that even the source of the word, there is some disagreement. Whilst one says it is educere, others are saying it is educare or educare, right? Where if it is educere, then it means that it means to lead out, and if it is educare, then it means to train or to mold according to craft. Now, if we put these 2 together, one thing that comes to mind is that education is basically about transmitting knowledge and then also drawing out what the potentials in an individual. So, because at the end of the day, we are leading out and we are training. So transmitting knowledge in the leading out, we transmit knowledge from a more knowledgeable person to a less knowledgeable person, so to speak. And then the molding is where there is something in you that we are trying to draw out. There's a potential that we want to develop within you. That will be the literally translation of education from its source at the EduCare and the EduSiri. However, the definition, if you ask anybody to give you a definition, like I said earlier, there will be areas of agreement, there will be areas of disagreement. And so because of that, the definitions, you can rather categorize them into 3. Yes.
All right, thank you very much. And so if you are with us, this is Radio Windy Bay 98.3. This evening we're talking about EDF 111, Educational Foundations or Foundations of Education. We started from a point where we had to throw more light on what the course is about and why it is very essential for each individual to participate or partake in this course. We mentioned that it is not just for students. If you are a teacher, if you are anybody who cares about educational matters in this country, then of course you have to pay particular attention to the course that we are dealing with. And so, Miss Miriam, I come back to you. Education. Dr. Tate has said that universally, we don't have a definition that we can pick and say, this is what education really means. But then, because we don't have a universally defined concept, education is more or less not like photosynthesis. If you go to US, photosynthesis is the same. If you come to Ghana, it is just like that. Matter is anything that occupies space.
And has mass.
Yes. So it doesn't matter. In the US, it is matter. But education differs. And that is why we always try to trace its origin. Dr. Tete has made it clear that as far as education is concerned, we know the etymology. Edusere, or these are names, so Latin names, and I don't know how to mention them. But people are saying, from the various scholars that we have read, they are saying that to some people, education is a process. To others, education is a product. And there is another school of thought, the more modernists are saying, no, education is both a process and a product. I don't know. What should our students know about this?
Yeah, so they need to be exposed to these schools of thought. Like you said, some see it to be a process, others see it to be a product. We'll look at what goes into that. And these things are depending on their philosophical orientations and all that. It is normal with human beings. Your favorite color may be green, another person's may be red. It doesn't mean that one is superior to the other, but depending on, and of course, times do change. So when it happens that you need to also adapt to new things, then you may change your position. So education as a process, what makes the whole idea, EduSiri, to train, EduCare, to lead out. So all these two were to train. So when it comes to education, there is a deliberate, learners must understand that there is a deliberate intention to refine the individual for learning to occur. Because from the origin of the word, if you want to train or mold, okay, it is not anything at all. There is a conscious effort to ensure that the learner or the person behaves in a way that he or she, so if it is your mother or your father who is providing you with that kind of education, or if it's about the schooling, there's a deliberate intention to form you, to train you, for you to stand out, so that when we see an educated person, we can be able to differentiate between you, who has been well trained, and then the one who is also, in the process to be refined. All right. So education as a process, we can look at several definitions, and these definitions will help us to understand the concept better. For example, Dewey says that education is not preparation for life. Education is life itself. We are looking at three conceptions of education. 1, education as a process. 2, education as a product. And then 3, education as both process and then product. And I just began with the concept of education as a process. When education is perceived as a process, Dewey is of the view that then education is not preparing somebody for life. What that means is that all that we are going through once we have life is education. Castle supports this by saying that education is what happens to a human life from the time they are born till the day they die. And so you realize that once you have life, whatever you go through is education. So as students, we cannot look at the time we were born. If these conceptions are anything to go by, then look at the time you were born to now. Castle, the lives of Dewey, they are saying that education is from what happens to an individual from birth to death. So all the experiences that we have gone through before,
and we are still going through,
and we will go through, constitutes education as a process by way of viewing it as such. So in these definitions, we see it to be continuous and ongoing and all that. Now, another school of thought is of the view that education is a product. So somebody will say, upon all the experiences you've had, what is the bottom line? Excuse me to say, what has become of you? Product. So education is the bringing about of desirable state of mind in the individual by Peters. What that means is that at the end of the day, all your experience, what has become of you? So that change that occurs in an individual is what this school of thought believe to be the outcome. But of course, our students need to bear in mind, that is why the third school of thought came out. In the modern sense, education is both. Change does not happen overnight. If you want to form an individual, if you want an individual to stand out, or you want to mold an individual, it will not happen overnight, because it is not something that, for the want of a better word, it's not magic that you can just command and then the change will come. That is why if you want to understand the concept, you don't put, let's say you attend lectures and then you take your notes after, when you're going to sleep, you put it under your pillow and pray, God, transfer everything into my mind. It doesn't happen that way. You have to go through a process by learning, reading, researching, so that the thing will stick. So education doesn't happen overnight. And though the process, all that you go through, we need to bear in mind that at the end of the day, there will be a change in you. So the outcome, in a modern sense, we are saying that it is both the processes you go through and then what is left that we can see, observe, or experience, which is the hybrid. So it is both a process. That is what is preferred now. It doesn't mean that the earlier scholars were wrong with how they perceived it. No. At the time, it was right, but in the modern sense, we think it must go beyond that. When we began the whole idea of education, it wasn't through the medium that we are having now, or the media that we are having now. But look at where we've come, how far we've come. So,
all right, thank you very much, Dr. Tete.
Thank you.
I think at this point we may want to take a little break. Just one.
Yeah, level 100s
are now joining the forum, and so we may want to take just 1 minute break, and then we will join the discussion back again. But before we go, Dr. Tete, somebody asked me, so are we saying that a professor should still learn?
Maybe let me add something to what Madam Miriam said. She did very well. You see, whether education is a process a product or both of them, it involves procedure. Do you see? It involves procedure. That procedure, in English, we can call it process. Is that not so? Good. But then, to see education as lifelong, right? To see education as lifelong and continuous, that is where you see it as a process. Are you getting it? So, education is not a process because, or one does not define education as a process or having the process conception because there is process in the definition.
No.
It is a process. That conception implies that education is continuous and lifelong. If it's a product where we are preparing you for life, right now we are preparing, we are giving you something, we are giving you some product, some element that will make you ready to now live life. That is product. Even in that, there are procedures of doing so. So you can say that one to there will have process, but that does not make it a process conception. What makes a definition of education process definition is that it is continuous and lifelong. That is what Castle said. From the day you are born to the day you die. And then another person also says what? John Dewey says education is not preparation for life. If it is preparation for life, then it is product. Because we are preparing you implies that we are giving you some things to enable you live a life later. Then that is product. But education is life itself. It implies that once you are alive, you are still under the tutelage of education, or you are still going through education. And so that means education is lifelong and continuing. That is the process conception. So that is one thing that I want to also add to what Miriam said. Right. That the fact that there is process, the word process in the definition, doesn't mean that it is a process definition. The idea of process is that it is lifelong. It is education for life.
And so, yes, we are going on commercial break just for a minute. When we come, but think about this. Where somebody asked me, so am I seeing professors still learn? Which has a connection with your last statement that as far as education is concerned, everybody learns.
Yes.
All right, thank you. So at this juncture, we want to break for just a single minute, and then we will join the feed again in 1 minute.
What is happening? I say up and down.
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are back to continue the discussions that we started on the course EDF 111, Foundations of Education. We started from an overview of the course where we introduced our listeners to the various pillars that undergird what we conceptualize as foundations because of the level we are dealing with, as well as what education means. And we established clearly that as far as education is concerned, we cannot pick and say this is what education really means. It depends on the period you're talking about, the context you are dealing with, and so on and so forth. We said that various scholars have established that education can be a process, and it does not necessarily mean when you see a definition that says education is a process, it means that the definition is purely a process, a product. But sometimes you have to look at certain variables within the definition to be able to juxtapose the fact that this definition is a process or a product. We said education is a process, a product. In some books you're going to find, you may see both reflecting in that very definition. So the person will see education both as a product and a process, or you may see books that says education is just a process or education is just a product. And so just a little, if you are in level 100, why do you finally complete this university and you go home? First class in mathematics, first class in English. Nobody is going to think of the mornings you woke up and the evenings you had to walk through rains, the process. They are only going to measure you based on the product. My son has graduated with a first class. That is the product. My son is a professional teacher. That is the product. But if you call your parents and you say it's raining, but they say we should come for lectures, you are seeing education as a process. And here we shouldn't limit the focus to just formal education. I know we will talk about the forms of education, but in every type of education that we're talking about, we are saying that it can be a process, it can be a product, and we can use so many examples. For instance, if you want to use the kitchen, we don't just wake up and prepare banku, you return and the banku is ready. When the banku is ready, you are interested in the product. But how did we get the banku? We started from somewhere. That is the process you go through. And so in some definitions, you may see education as a process and as a product. But I want Dr. Tete to just briefly, because our students think that education has an end. They are just, once you're a professor, they think that the continuous learning has ended. There is no need to learn again. And so to them, education is a product, and that product ends with professorship.
Yes, you see, so to conceive education as a process implies that you take education as not having an end. Yes. And so it is lifelong. So all the time you learn. So a professor who you see at the library always learning, like my former professor, you will see him always learning at the library as if he's going to write exams. That is not the only thing though, but that is an aspect of lifelong learning. And that is the education as a process. And you know, lifelong learning is one of the 21st century skills that if you don't learn continuously in life, if you don't allow life to tutelage you right from wherever you find yourself all the way till when you die, you elapse, you will be a cake. There will be a lot of things that will go on that you may not be aware of. So for example, somebody says that I'm born before computer, and so I don't know anything in computer. That person has education as a product conception. So he feels that he has attained certain things, and that's all. But the moment you feel that, well, yes, I'm born before computer, but I can still learn and back up. Yes, it means that you see that life is about learning, and it is continuous. And when you see that way, it means that you conceive education as a process. So again, there are procedures of offering education. Even in informal education, there are procedures. You don't just say I'm offering. Informal education has procedures. There are steps, yes. Non-formal steps, formal steps. But then, what makes a definition of education, or a conception of education process, is that when you see it to have no end until you die, then it means a process. But when you see it as you are being prepared, you are being equipped with something now, so that you will live a life tomorrow with it.
I'm a lecturer
You have
now,
been
so I won't learn again.
Exactly, you have been equipped with something. So I saw one of the Winneba MA Business School. They have a motto: education for life. In this education for life, there are two things there. One, the interpretation could be that for life means, for example, if you are being imprisoned, you are being imprisoned for life. So education for life implies what? Forever. That is process. But if you say education for life, meaning we are equipping, if you are interpreting it as we are equipping you so that you live a life tomorrow, a meaningful life tomorrow, that is education as a product, because we are equipping you with certain things now. That's why when you graduate, that's why we can assess you. There's something in you, we must check whether it is there. We must certify you that you have a certificate. We must give you certain things to certify that indeed you have attained these products. And for that matter, you can go into the world and live.
I would want to pick the view of Miss Miriam about this. Does education has an end? Process, product, hybrid.
Education is an unending venture. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And so, Dr. Tete and Miss Miriam, does it mean that every activity we partake in is education in nature, or is educational in nature? Because we have so many
Yes.
activities on this earth that as individuals we go through. Sometimes it's negative, but we may learn certain things. Sometimes it's, so what should really count as edu?
To answer your question, does everything that we learn on earth mean it's education? Well, if you take it that everything we learn on earth is education, then you are considering education as a process. Yes, because it means you have a lot of things to learn until you leave this earth. But certain things may not count. In the way we see education, certain things may not count. When we talk of education in today's language, we are looking at positive things, not negative things. And so then it means we need some criteria for judging whether an event, a process, an activity is education or not education. So in that sense, you see that when you ask me what counts as education, it will take me a long time to give you the answer. But somebody has done something, though it's not perfect, we will manage that, and then we analyze and see whether we can make some sense out of it and then use it. And that is what R.S. Peters did in 1966. According to R.S. Peters, for something to count as education, it must pass 3 criteria. 3. And the first criteria is that whatever count as education, whatever process, whatever event, whatever activity that should be considered as education, it should transmit what is worthwhile to those who become committed to it. So it should give us something worthwhile, something relevant to those who become committed to it. In fact, each of his criterion can be critiqued and you can find something wrong with it. For example, he says whatever counts as education, 1, should transmit something that is worthwhile to those who are committed to it. So the first question is, yes, I have come here to learn to study mathematics. Does it mean that once I'm studying mathematics, I'm committed to mathematics? Is that not so? So that is education for me. So if somebody is studying accounting or social studies, because I'm not committed to that, does it make it not to be education? You see the twist. So that is where some people have issues with in terms of the first criteria. But the truth is that whatever we should call education must carry something worthwhile. That is very important. But the second part that he adds, to those who are committed to it, that is where people sometimes critique him and say that they have issue with. Then the second one, according to R.S. Peters, what counts as education must involve knowledge and understanding. Knowledge and understanding. That is important. You can see that he was very, very careful. He didn't mention knowledge of what and knowledge, understanding of what. He said knowledge and understanding of anything that we are considering worthwhile in the first one. Good. But he continues in the second criterion that, and some sort of cognitive perspectives which is not innate. According to him, for something to count as education, in attaining it must have knowledge and understanding, but in attaining that knowledge and understanding, at least the mind should be engaged in some activity. You should not just be sleeping or dozing off and say you have learned or you have gone through education. That is intuition. That is revelation. So for RSP test, per his second point, revelation, intuition is not education. If you sleep and you have a dream, it's not education. If you are there and something dawns on you, that is not education. What is education is that once that worthwhile thing is being transmitted to you, at least your mind is involved. Like you have put your hand on your thing, you are not writing anything, but you are listening. Your mind is engaged in some cognitive activities. So when you are asked a question, you can answer it. That is what RSP is talking about. So that by this, we can eliminate intuition and revelation be considered as education. They are not education. Good. Then the last one, the third point. According to him, whatever counts as education should at least rule out some procedures. What it means is that the procedure or the means of offering education or giving education, not all of them are educational. Not all the procedures are acceptable. And he is giving us one of them, that at least those that the one who is learning, the one who is being educated, doesn't have the awareness that he's being educated, he or she is being educated, or doesn't have the willingness to opt for it or not to opt for it. So that, and at this point too, we will eliminate indoctrination. Indoctrination too cannot be considered as education. You see the way it is. So it means that by RSP test point 1, the first criteria is that for something to count as education, it must be important. And it must be important to whoever is committed to it. Good. 2, it must involve knowledge and understanding of whatever, such that in the process of you acquiring that knowledge and understanding, at least the mind should be engaged in something. It shouldn't be that you are sleeping, you are just sitting, something dawns on you, you get a revelation, you say you have education. That is also out. Then the last one, some procedures of giving this knowledge and understanding that is worthwhile. Some of them are not good, some of them are not appropriate, and therefore we should rule out those ones, especially those that, it says at least, so at least those that are against the learner's will and the learner's awareness. So that's it.
All right, thank you very much. And so if you are with us, this is still Radio Windy Bay 98.3. This evening we are discussing EDF 111 Foundations of Education. And for those of you who have just joined, our students and our cherished viewers and listeners, this evening we started from somewhere. We started from overview of the course, where we established that as far as Foundations of Education is concerned, we are limiting ourselves to 4 key pillars. We started with philosophy of education, sociology of education, psychology of education, and lastly, history of education. We moved on to look at what is education. We defined education, and there we said that education does not lend itself to a specific definition, and so various authors have tried to define the term to suit their orientation and to suit their own context. We said in view of these various confusions arising from the various definitions and interpretations, people see education as a process, others see education as a product, and others see education as a hybrid, which is a combination of the process and the product. We said that in view of all these confusions, what should then count as education? And Dr. Tete just enlightened us on the criterions for establishing what should really count education as education. And he mentioned that education should transmit what is important. 2, education must involve the use of the mind, and the brain must equally function. And lastly, there should be some rules of transmission, because if you allow the learner may be so unwilling And for that matter, there should be rules of transmission. And so 0503-923158, 0503-923158. You can phone in with your questions, your comments, and your contributions. Miss Miriam, so from all this, we have said that, so I'm a student of University of Education, Winneba. I'll go home. What should I take home as education? What if a lay person should meet me and say, so you are at Winneba, right? What is education?
All right.
In our own perspective, what should we say?
So, in all that we have said, the students attempt to, I don't know whether he or she may prefer to define
or explain
or explain
or describe.
However the student wants to go by.
Yes.
In whichever kind of way that the learner will attempt to respond to that question, the learner must be mindful of the criteria that RS Peters put across. So I tell my students that, you see, in all this, bringing it down to your level, appreciate and understand that whatever we attempt to do here by way of the programs you are reading, it is something that is worthwhile. The course is worthwhile. That is not the only thing. Other activities that you engage in, look at the positives of it. There is a deliberate intention for you, so that at the end of the day you will value. So I said, I value the program you are reading, value all the courses. Don't look down on any of them. That is worthwhile, or the importance of what RS Peters is talking about. And because the university is also aware, so we are providing them with, to a larger extent, worthwhile things. The school will not deliberately introduce you or teach you things that are valueless or that will not make any meaning to you. So they themselves must appreciate that first. And then secondly, bringing this criteria down to their level. I said, it is not about memorization of theories and principles or laws. We need to understand them. So he talks of what? Knowledge and understanding.
Yeah.
So I told them that all the things we are teaching you, if we say that, take the slides, go and memorize and come and answer questions, that one you will even clap. But that is not what we want. We want you to have a deeper understanding with what we are. So in your attempt to answer that person who asked you the question, the student must equally bear this in mind. And again, so he talks about the cognitive perspective, which is not innate. And an innate knowledge is that which is just stored in memory. So when you are called, you produce it. But that is not it. You must be actively engaged. So he said, which is not cognitive perspective, which is not innate, meaning that knowledge is be actively engaged. You learn, you solve, you think. You must use the brain as we are here. So that is it. And then of course, how the various procedures that have been put in place. So all in all, in your attempt to explain the meaning of education, as students, the first thing that they need to understand is that they should try as much as possible not to look at it in terms of schooling. That is one thing. Usually when we talk of education, he's going to the university or further studies. Education goes beyond schooling. It's a kind of holistic development. So there is a purposeful process. Education is a purposeful process through which our appropriate learning experiences. We learn so many things from process, conception of education, product, hybrid system, but as a working definition, there is a purposeful process through which appropriate learning experiences. The learning experiences are many. Any experience we go through in life is a learning experience. But those ones that are appropriate for the learner's development, their psychological well-being, their emotional, mental, and all of them, cognitive, all of them. The changes that need to occur in the learner's development, skills, values, attitudes, And all these things are expected to make the learner be in a position to function correctly in society, so that when you go home, parents or the society will not say that, but are you not the one who is in the university? So society expects that we behave correctly. At that point, it will not be about you had a first class or you had an upper or whatever, but usually all the things that society expects that we exhibit goes beyond it's not limited to academic alone. It is important that once you mount any podium to speak on how you carry yourself about, we should see some level of development in you, but it goes beyond that. Everything, the totality of the learner's experiences, their skills, their values, their knowledge and everything, it should be holistic. So we need to be mindful of all these.
All right, thank you. Dr. Tete, is there anything you may want to add to what we've discussed so far? What is the take home? What should our students take?
I think that everything we have discussed here is worth taking home.
Okay.
But then they should understand that in as much as we say it's quite complex to define education for everybody to accept, doesn't mean that you cannot define it. You can define it, and you are right in your own perspective, because very soon, maybe in the next 3 weeks or so, we'll be looking at philosophy of education, and there you understand that you also have a perspective, and that perspective defines your philosophy.
Sorry, we have a caller on the line. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. Good evening. Hello. I think we're struggling with the phone line. All right, so we're going live on Facebook to see the questions and the contributions from our dear viewers. Hello, Dr. Tete. Good evening to the entire panel. This is Ni Level 100. All right, thank you very much, Ni. More fire from KWAKYE-APAUI Isido. Priscilla Okanbi ICT department. Can I say that education is training that one goes through to become a transformed person in life? Quick one, Miss Miriam.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah, to some extent.
Okay.
Once training. So in training too, we provide the individual with that which is worthwhile, if that is anything to go by, in order for the person to transform.
Yeah.
So,
because they you have done very well. The likelihood that we are going to give them definitions and we'll ask them where the definition falls is high.
Yes.
So I try to link to that side. Okay. Let's take this definition. Where is it?
Education is training that one goes through to become a transformed.
So this is it a process or product? Or the bush?
Training.
Yes. So you see,
and there is a transformation,
and that transformation has an end.
Yes.
After which we expect you to live a life.
Yes.
And this is product.
It's product.
But it's I product. Think that it's education is training. There is an element of process.
That process occurs everywhere.
Yes.
Whether informal, formal, whatever. Okay. The process is there. Those steps are there. Okay. But the question is it lifelong or continuous?
Okay.
Is it continuous and lifelong? So this one, you see that after the there is a time for the training to end. Okay. Of which we will see you
once
transform.
You are transformed.
Then after that, whatness? Yes. Doesn't mean that after you have transformed, there is no education.
All right, thank you.
That ends it, and we can see element of your transformation as the product of education.
Very visible.
Yes, in you.
So you are coming to level 100, and there are instances people expect the worst. That Kwabena Oko School, excuse my language, Kwabena Oko School, they say you. But Kwabena Oko School, we know afei onomombe bebano. Everybody expect that once we are withdrawing students, Kwabena's name should be part. But Kwabena would eventually graduate with first class. There has been a product, a change. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening. Good
Hello?
evening. All right, sorry.
Hello. Or is it that?
Hello. Good evening. Please, your name and your department. Good evening. Please, your name and your department.
My name is Benjamin.
All right, Benjamin, let's listen to you.
Alright, so can you hear me?
Yes, Benjamin, we are listening.
Oh, okay, IT department.
ICT, Benjamin, please, we are listening.
Alright, so I understand what my colleague, my madam, yeah. So can you also define education as a systematic? Okay. Can you also define education as a systematic journey? That's where it's an individual.
Please, can you take that again?
I said, can you also define education as a systematic journey that unlocks an individual inner potential?
All right.
And equip them with the knowledge.
All right, thank you very much. I think our panelists will respond to this as we go on with the discussion. Thank you. I think we have another caller. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Please, your name and your department.
My name is Health Administration and Education.
Health Administration. All right, thank you very much, John.
Okay, so the question I want to ask, once he was explaining, he explained education as something that transmits positive wealth to those that are committed to it.
Yes.
Yes, and then from my studies, I learned that there are some people that learn about the production of missiles, weapons, and guns as well. And then these kind of studies that they do bring a lot of genocide and insecurity in the country. So I want to know that one, is it education as a business or a product? And will it come down as education?
All right, thank you very much, John. I think we have another caller. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Please, my name is Ezekiel, BAC Accounting Education.
All right, accounting education. Please, your question.
Oh, I just want to use this opportunity to thank you, and then we really appreciate what you taught us.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah. So, please, concerning my question is concerning the philosophy. Is this I do not understand it. Please, can you explain it?
All right, thank you very much. We have another caller, then we will attempt to answer all the questions. Hello. Dr. Tete. So you have the questions.
There is one from, unfortunately, I didn't pick the name. It says systematic journey that unearth an individual's potential. Mimi, you took it, eh?
No.
Okay. Yeah, it says systematic journey that unearth an individual's potentials. So if we are analyzing this is a very good definition of education. And you could see here that once the systematic journey that unearth an individual's potentials, there's no timeline here. It is forever.
Yeah, a process.
Yes.
Then I think there are other questions.
Then it says that learning to provide any, okay, for example, some people learn and they produce guns. For example, Albert Einstein, he studied physics and then was able to come out with this, what was used to create bomb. And he regretted for giving the idea that you can use certain things to create bomb. So that is where the gentleman is coming from, that some people go to school, they learn, and then they end up producing things that harm society.
The
outcome becomes harmful. Yeah. Is that education? And where can we put it? Is it processed product? Well, it doesn't really answer any question as to where the definition lies, whether processed product or hybrid. But then it is, you see, it is also education. Just that education does not always produce positive outcome. It can produce ill function or dysfunction.
But the ultimate is the ill.
Of course. once we mention education, we all look for positive outcomes.
But it does not.
Like we always say here, where God rose his sumptuous plantain, that is where Satan also rose his what do you call it? Kobe. So there is always a byproduct of education that can be harmful.
Yeah,
yes,
I understand. All right, thank you very much. So Facebook, I go by the name Clement Mensah, level 100 student of South Campus. You see, at least indicate your department so we can acknowledge
level
you,
100, they are learning, so.
You and your colleagues. So we have, I think basically that is all the comments. These are all the comments that we have from our Facebook platform. I think as and when others pop up, we will take all of you through. I'm Bedu Prince, English Department, level 100. Thank you very much, Bedu Prince. Interesting and very educative. Kojomole Smart. Derek Dennis, ICT Department. My name is Sahaku Abdul Rashid, level 100. I read political science. I need explanations about education as a process and education as a product. And I think we spent a chunk of the time this evening telling you education can be a process and it can be, so when you are seeing education as something that is continuous, then education is a process. But if you are measuring education in terms of the certificate, the outcome, the changes in the values, perceptions, and the attitude, then education is a product. So assuming I come to school as a dark person and I return home white, people are going to judge me. Since he went to school, he has become so white.
It seems the atmosphere
has changed my skin, and so education is a product here. Let me give a definition that will help the gentleman who is looking for the definition. Okay. Education, if somebody defines education like this, education is the process of preparing or equipping individuals with the necessary skills, knowledge, values, attitude, and so on and so forth for living a meaningful life in the society. Look at this definition carefully. It's like you are being given something, and it's like when you are done, now you can live a meaningful life. This is a product definition. All right, so thank you very much. I want to take your final words, Dr. Tete, and then Miss Miriam. We thank all our listeners for being with us. We thank the students for also sharing their views with us. We hope to meet next week. Yeah. Miss Miriam. Same
thing. We appreciate their efforts. Yeah, this is their first time, but it has been very encouraging. I mean, we so far so good. We pray that by next week it will increase. So.
And so I think we've had feedback from some students complaining that they were not able to join the live feed. We want to take this opportunity to apologize to all of them, and I think that by next week everything will be set, and both the radio and the live feed on Facebook as well as our other social media platforms will be very functional. We thank you very much for being with us throughout this period. God willing, we meet same time next week. I was quite privileged to have in the studio Dr. Alestete and Miss Miriam Morgan from the Department of Educational Foundations, and I know they are seeing education as a lifelong process because they are coming from the School of Education and Lifelong Learning. My name has been Stephen KWAKYE-APAUI. Same time next week we shall meet. Bye-bye.